So right off the bat, I'm putting this out there so everybody can see my bias. I'm a PlayStation geek. Not that I'm one of those, oh, you play Xbox? Game Pass is for cucks. I've just always enjoyed PlayStation games, whether it be exclusives or honestly, I just prefer the controller itself. Regardless of how big budget or short the game is, I know I'll only be playing it for a limited amount of time, but it'll be time well spent. I'm always in this cycle of waiting for my next obsession. Like in recent times, I've gone from being absolutely obsessed with Elden Ring, and that lasted a good while, more than my normal obsessions do. And then from the end of February to like the middle of summer, Elden Ring was everything to me. Then Red Dead Redemption 2. I know I got to it super late, 4 years late, but oh my god, what a game that was. Surprisingly, I got to play the game with no spoilers. It's a 4-year-old game, well by now almost 5 years old, and I didn't have anything spoiled for me. I went in completely blind. I had never played the first one. This is going to turn into a Red Dead Redemption video. Maybe. That game seriously deserves a video of its own. You know, because there's definitely a shortage of YouTubers doing Red Dead Redemption 2 videos.
But you said you knew Spanish. I know human beings.
Then the wait for God of War Ragnarok started to hit pretty hard. That's whenever I noticed PlayStation was really pushing this game called Stray. Knowing that I had a hot minute before God of War Ragnarok came out, because at that point they still had yet to announce the release date for it, I figured, f*** it, I'll give the cat game a go. And I mean, it's free for PlayStation Plus subscribers, or at least at that point it was, so why not? That game seriously opened up my eyes to the world of indie games. I mean, I had played some indie games before just based off of like friend recommendations, or YouTubers that I really enjoyed watching would play an indie game here or there. But playing Stray really made me notice and appreciate the art that goes into indie games. And Stray, for me, only lasted about 6, 7, maybe 8 hours on my first run of it. And it had me still thinking about it like a month later about how amazing that experience was. I almost bought a cat because of that game. I don't have $500 to put on a pet deposit right now. Dude, I don't have... How much is cat food? I don't know how much cat... I haven't been to like Petco or PetSmart and God knows how long. And litter, they can't go outside and piss and shit like a dog. You have to have a litter box. So I went from playing Stray to God of War Ragnarok whenever it eventually came out in November, a day after my birthday. So I knew that after like 50, 60 plus hours in that game, although I didn't know how it was going to end or what was going to happen, but I knew after a good bit of time in that game that I was going to be back in that in-between stage of here's one obsession, here's the gray area. I will just call that depression. And that is where my next obsession kicked in. Hades dropped in 2020, but it had early access since like 2018. I didn't know that until I watched the No Clip documentary on YouTube, which I highly recommend. And I didn't get into it until about the very end of December of 2022, like 2 days before the new year. There's so many more indie games that I would love to deep dive into that deserve more than just a shout out or a video for themselves, such as like Hollow Knight and others. But Hades was an indie game that I now have like 60 plus hours into it, all because of the story, the gameplay, the way those two things are like intertwined. The voice acting is 10 out of 10 IGN would recommend. And the music, dude, the music to that game, I probably have like 30 plus hours of listening time on Apple Music of just listening to the soundtrack by itself. And yes, I use Apple Music, not Spotify. Spotify is like that cousin you have that does really cool shit, and his social media is like really dope. He posts all over IGN. He posts all over Instagram, and it just looks like he's living the life. But you guys have like nothing in common, but whenever you're together at family holidays and stuff like that, because you're the same age, both of your parents are like, you should go check out what cousin Billy Bob's been up to. Go talk to your cousin. You haven't seen him in so long, but you don't want to talk to him because he looks like Mike Wazowski. You get bitches and he doesn't, but he has a better job than you. Somewhere in there is the point that I was trying to make. Anyways, Hades seriously surprised me. It really solidified that feeling that I had back in my in-between phase after like Elden Ring and Red Dead Redemption, somewhere in there, to just say f it and give indie games more of a chance. I literally found my next obsession on accident. My YouTube recommended was nothing but like Hades content. For even still, I'm sure there's a better way of enjoying games or entertainment that is healthier than that, from going from one obsession to the next and on and on and on. But my ADHD keeps me prisoner, and I have to feed into it or else. So with all that being said, what makes a great indie game great? I've broken this down into 3 parts that are my opinion, but for me, sell me on an indie game. The length of the investment, the gameplay, and the story. Now 2 and 3 seem pretty obvious, like they could be said for pretty much any AAA game, but I have a lot more to say on those 2 than just the basics when we get there. Like I said before, I'm constantly going through this loop of waiting for like the next big game to take over my life, but in that in-between stage, you know, that can last for like a month or sometimes like half a year. Quick sidebar, in 2021, I was in the in-between stage and decided to give the Assassin's Creed games a try since they like revamped the series back in 2016. So I played Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. And dog games. Do better, Ubisoft, you cucks. Dog games, dog storytelling, dog acting, dude. Dude, a story that lasts way too long. Dude, for God's sakes, Valhalla was 60 plus hours long. Who in the is gonna waste 60 hours? I have a wife and 2 kids, and also a band that I invest a lot of time into, and I've been trying to get this YouTube thing started for a while. So the times that I do get to sit down and enjoy playing a game or watching a movie or, you know, streaming series or do stuff like this, you know, I don't want that to be wasted at all on something that is very lackluster. Especially when it comes to games, I don't want to waste my time playing some dog ass game. Bro, Ubisoft, you're a multi-billion-dollar company. If I get into a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 or God of War or Elden Ring, Sekiro, what else? I don't mind how long they are because I genuinely enjoy the game. I want to take my time with it because I want to be a part of those stories for as long as I can. But in that dreaded in-between phase, I'm not looking for games that's going to take 60 plus hours to finish with some half-ass story and subpar gameplay. So knowing that I'm only going to spend like, you know, 6 to 10 hours whenever I'm playing Stray, it's an easy sell. And at that point, if it's a dog game, I've only lost 6 to 10 hours. But I have yet to find a bad indie game. And I know they're out there. I've seen clips. And not all indie games are like super short and, you know, very compact or anything like that. I mean, I just said earlier, I have like 50 or 60 hours, however much, in Hades, and I still have yet to get to the true ending. I'm too busy, you know, doing all these side quests and trying to romance Megara and Thanatos and Skelly.
Wow, 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 wow.
Generally speaking, though, I don't think anyone goes into an indie game thinking that they're going to get like a God of War or Red Dead Redemption, you know, length story going into it, or that they're going to have to pre-order the Omega Deluxe canned coochie edition because it's such a hot thing right now that by the time they're able to buy it, they're all gone.
They won't have. Wow, they have it! Canned coochie!
Mostly it's all digital download now, so I mainly said that so that I could do the Squidward meme. But whatever, you get my point. All right, on to the next thing. Now with AAA games, most gamers know the studios behind those titles and like how they like to make their games. So Naughty Dog doesn't have to sell you on The Last of Us 2 for the gameplay, although it is phenomenal and definitely upgraded from the first one, so it's worth showing off how the game works. but you have a pretty good idea of how it's going to work going into it. The same can be said for Sony Santa Monica with God of War. You like the gameplay from God of War 2018? God of War Ragnarok does it better. That's not to say that just because you're going into the next installment of a franchise that that's the only time I can make this point, but that the studios have a certain way of making games that the fans love, so they stick to it. You hear that, Ubisoft? If your fans love it, then stick to it. But what happens if they don't love it? Maybe it's time to do something. But with indie games, it's a blind first playthrough for the most part. They have more to sell you on, so you may get to see some gameplay to get you invested in it. Maybe similar to other games, even big budget ones. But knowing that it's coming from a smaller team, I feel a sense of care went into every single detail of that game. Of course, big studios go that far with their games as well, and that's why they sell so well and they're praised so hard, and IGN does the best reviews, and they get the best people to review those games. Fact check, false. But when it's a team of like 12 people making Outer Wilds, or a team of, less than 20 people that make Hades, I almost feel like I'm interacting with one specific person's contribution to the form of art. Like I could thank that one specific team member for his work in the game. Thanks, Kenneth, for adding this sweet-ass animation of Zagreus dashing after his spear. It's cool as and I'm gonna kiss you now. Pucker up. I guess the same can be said for big budget games, so I may be stretching a little here, but hopefully you see where I'm coming from. Ubisoft, why would you disregard what your fans have been asking for?
Stay hidden.
This one might also be a bit of a stretch, but hear me out. When God of War 2018 was first announced in 2016, nobody really knew what was about to happen in the story. And obviously that's part of the selling point, is to buy the game to find out, but there's so much more hype around it that leaks can happen, like with The Last of Us Part 2. Indie games don't have that same level of hype as the AAA games do, and that's not to shit on them or anything, but simply saying that that level of pressure is off because some people might not have even heard of some of these studios that are developing these games. I know I had no idea who Supergiant Games were until I played Hades, and they've made a lot more games than just Hades. I went into that game expecting nothing, so even if the game was a 7 out of 10, I still would have had fun with it. But if Insomniac puts out a game that I'm really hyped for and it's a 7 out of 10, I'm kind of disappointed, because that 7 out of 10 is a little more devastating than a 7 out of 10 for a game that I had zero expectations for. Also, something I should have mentioned in the gameplay section that can also be said here is that indie devs are more likely to get away with trying some pretty unique styles of gameplay and or storytelling. Like Hades, the story is being told more and more each time you die trying to escape hell. That is very unique to that game, and it ties the gameplay so well with the story that both of those factors coming together, it just makes everything make sense in that world. Indie games can focus on small subject matter too. It doesn't have to be super grand scale things. It can be as simple as, hey, this game is super scary, so you're gonna shit yourself, have fun, and see you later. And that's the whole selling point of the game. I mean, dude, look at Among Us. The premise of that game is so simple, yet so unique that literally anyone can get into playing it, regardless of if you're a hardcore gamer or you're just passively bullshitting in your downtime. The story for The Last of Us Part 1 is something that is going to take a while to delve out, and if they want to do it justice and do it correctly to where it actually makes an impact that they want to make, it's going to take its time, and it's going to make you grind out those story beats, and rightfully so. Imagine if Ghost of Tsushima was a 2D platformer like Hollow Knight. That story is so rich, and it counts on so many different aspects to present its story in such a beautiful way that anything other than like the cinematic experience intertwined with gameplay would fall short. Now imagine any of this making sense. Please like and subscribe. This is my first go at this, so this is probably a dog shit video, but I hope I did a decent job at showing how amazing indie games can be and all the different ways that they can be. spending a short amount of time mindlessly running through the depths of hell ended up turning into an amazing experience for me while playing Hades, that it turned into a full-blown obsession like how Red Dead Redemption 2 or Elden Ring did. And I wasn't expecting that to happen, but I think that's the beauty of it. You never know exactly what you may get out of... Dude, holy shit. This is lasting way too long. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Losers. Plays games, dude. I got 2 kids, man. Build a house or something. You hard at work, huh? Oh, thank you. Can I drink this? Okay, let me drink this. Oh, man. I was so thirsty. Thanks. That really hit the spot.